morning to all of you for our, it's hard to imagine, last school meeting of the term, and I congratulate you on, yeah, you can cheer about that. That's great. We're almost there. We are, you're in those final days, and I know Mr. Wilson will talk a little bit and give you some really good advice on how to go into the exams. I sometimes do. I'm not, because I want to talk about something else briefly, and then we'll get on to the real show, which is the gospel choir, who I'm really excited about. I'd say one thing about the exams. First of all, I just would say, put them in perspective. You've done good work. If you've done good work in your courses, you're going to be fine going into the exams. And recall that you have lots of time. You have a lot of time during the exam week to prepare and to sleep and to lead a really balanced life so that you'll do well. So I wish you the very best luck in that in the last few days. And here's what I'd like to talk about. I want to talk about a national hero, and about someone that some of you have heard of, obviously, but may not know enough about, and you should. And that is that a few days ago, our nation lost a real hero and a public servant, and that was President George H.W. Bush. And if you look around campus, you'll see that's why the flags are at half-staff. And you may not know as much about him because his single-term presidency was 1989 to 1993, obviously long before you were born, but we really do well to reflect on him. And I say this for all of us, regardless of political perspective or where you're from, and really because his commitment to serving others and in the way he carried himself with such humility and dignity, he might serve to inspire all of us. So who was George Bush? He was born into a prominent Connecticut family, and he never forgot his privilege, or the word he used all the time was his blessings. His father was a former senator and banker. The family lived in Greenwich. He had been born in Boston, and then they moved here. They had a summer home in Maine. He then attended Andover and ultimately Yale, where he was captain of the baseball team. And when, in a sentiment that was shared by, it seems like, all of his classmates, he was a quote, big man on campus, captain of the baseball team, while never seeking for or ever wanting that description. And indeed, humility may have been his most enduring trait. And it's an admirable trait, especially when it's in really successful people. Once when he wrote, like any teenager, to his mother from Andover of scoring 3 goals in a soccer game, she wrote back, "That's great, dear, but how did the team do?" He avoided speaking in the first person, and indeed his speeches are really fascinating and refreshing for how rarely you find the pronoun I. I think there are few traits as uniting as that of humility in a leader, and Bush's ability to bring people together and nations together was clearly related to the fact that he didn't believe he was better than anyone else. He didn't seek accolades or credit, and he felt that boasting about one's accomplishments was wrong. That humility seemed part and parcel of probably his other most enduring personal quality, and that was the desire to serve. And obviously here's someone we think of who embodies our own motto. He was deeply aware of how privileged he was as an American, as someone who was dealt from the top of the deck in terms of wealth and education, gender and religion. He never, ever forgot how fortunate he was. And all of this created in him a deep sense of gratitude, and that led to a sense of a call to service. I think it's hard to argue or hard to find another president who embodied service so much as this man. After Pearl Harbor and on his 18th birthday, and that is at the age of many of you in this room, certainly in the front rows, and deciding to postpone going to college, he joined the Navy and he became the youngest aviator. To him, this was not a hard decision at all. And then when he was shot down in 1944 over the Pacific and rescued in a life raft by a submarine, he survived, but 2 fellow Navy men in the airplane did not. His letter home ended to his family, "My heart just aches for the families of those 2 boys." In interviews decades later, he still would be asking, why was I the lucky one? He served. He volunteered for countless boards. He served as congressman for 2 terms, chief liaison officer to China. He was the director of the CIA. He was vice president under Reagan. In his later life, he traveled the world, much of it with Bill Clinton, and his former opponent, and someone with whom he shared very little in common, and they served victims of hurricanes and tsunamis. That unlikely pairing, you could not find 2 more different men, and they did become close friends, was clearly a result of Bush's willingness to put differences aside for a larger good. He often said, there are missions to serve. And this impeccable and consistent and passionate commitment to service meant that even those who disagreed with him, even if you completely disagreed with his politics, you never could doubt his motivation, that serving others was in his blood. Now, given the man I'm describing, it won't surprise you that his presidency was marked not just by a kind of conversational civility, but also by policy restraint. And for some, he was criticized. Bush helped write the final chapter of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. And when the Soviet Union collapsed, there was no triumphant dancing on the grave, no chest-thumping celebration. And indeed, there was much concern that that would happen. Instead, Bush collaborated with Mikhail Gorbachev, and they signed a treaty which brought a reduction in nuclear arms. When he led a coalition of 28 nations, and consider, by the way, what kind of leader is able to bring 28 nations of the world together. I think of just the fact that yesterday I sat in a Model UN class and watched the debate among nations. Bush somehow was able to bring 28 nations together to fight a war in Kuwait to eject the Iraqi troops who had invaded. But he did not continue the war by marching to Baghdad. He believed that the defense of Kuwait and not the destruction of Iraq was the objective. Now, for these acts of restraint, he had critics, and he will, even in his legacy. History will question him, but no historian should be surprised by that restraint, and many are going to view his prudence, that careful restraint, as the driving philosophy that shaped his foreign policy. And then finally, it's not going to surprise you, given the man I've described, that his language and his leadership was marked by a rare kind of civility, and no doubt we are going to hear about this when he is eulogized tomorrow. To be sure, he led in a different era. He led in an era long before the echo chambers of the internet, long before the larger polarization and political tribalization that you see on all sides today. You might argue it was a simpler time. But he did bring a formal and respectful tone, in part because of his basic goodness as a person, and in part because of his rather formal upbringing. He could speak across the aisle, and he insisted, even as we debate, perhaps passionately and toughly, and this was a very tough man, that we do so in a way that served the nation. Consider his inaugural address, where he spoke of his goal, and think of the language here, to, quote, make kinder the face of the nation and gentler the face of the world. Now, we should be careful not to mythologize a historical figure, or worse, leave him a simple caricature. He was complex, and as with all leaders, his legacy will be debated. Bush had his detractors, both among Democrats and Republicans. His presidential campaign against Michael Dukakis included an advertisement that was racially charged and was ugly. Fiscal conservatives argue that his tax increase violated or betrayed not just a campaign pledge, but also bedrock Republican philosophy. Democrats criticized him for the way in which he seemed out of touch with the struggles of ordinary Americans. Many criticized what he called as this lack of vision for the nation. Some argue that his failure to go after Iraq and attack Iraq led to the challenges that he would face, or his son and others would face decades later. But I don't think there will be much debate that he was a leader of uncommon decency, of unusual humility, and deep goodness, a true American hero. He served. And for me, and my final thought is, perhaps for all of us in this room who are so blessed to have this education, his belief that we might serve something larger than ourselves, and to do that with humility, that might be less than enough. So I guess it's with that sense of gratitude and service that he embodied for us. I wish you the very best as you go into exams, and most importantly, I ask that you give an enthusiastic welcome to the Taft Gospel Choir. Okay?
Just mic on? Yeah. We have a nice performance for you today. We have a few solos from Mara, Lee, Lachlan, and myself, so we can get started. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
冇病愁，冇病。
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. And I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true, baby. All I want for Christmas is you.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. sing along with us. Everybody, come on. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Take it away. He's taking a wish. He's checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty or nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round young virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
Oh yes, silent night. Everybody, come on. Silent. Come on, I can't hear you out there. Holy night. All is calm. All is bright. Round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Is this your next piece, Lana? Joy to the world. Okay, here we go. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive King. Let every heart prepare His room. Let heaven and nature sing. Let heaven and nature sing. Let heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, all the boys and girls. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. Everybody sing it again. Joy to the world. Everybody sing along with us. Oh yeah. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. Yeah. So Avery and I, we got together and we put a little song together. And it's you have to really listen carefully to the lyrics of this song because it talks about you, talks about me, talks about this
Brown
special.
wrote it.
Well, no, we sort of did it, discussed
A
it.
group.
But it's a group effort. It's called Taft School Holiday.
Here at the Taft School, spreading the cheer,
Sing Avery.
knowing that Christmas soon will be here. Exams will soon be over, new classes begin. Soon we will be home to see our family and friends.
It's our Taft School holiday. Sleigh rides, snowball fights, everything's okay. All of our problems seem to fade away on this special Taft School holiday.
Mr. McMullen's message is clear to all the students and all others to hear.
Sing, Labor.
Spread good tidings and let peace be the rule. Love will surely guide and bless our wonderful school.
It's a TAF school holiday. Sleigh rides, snowball fights, everything's okay. All the problems
Seem to
fade away
on this
special TAF school holiday. All that special TAF school holiday. Sing with a special. TAF school holiday. One more time. Special TAF holiday. Avery's been our choir head, and he's done a wonderful job. Give him a great big hand. Okay, Lachlan, he's our assistant. Come a little closer. Everybody sing now. Jesus, Jesus. Oh, what a wonderful child. Jesus, Jesus. So holy, make him out. New life, new love, new joy he brings. Won't you listen to the angels sing? Glory, glory, glory to the newborn King.
He was heralded by the angel, born in a lowly manger. Virgin Mary was his mother. Joseph was his earthly father. 3 wise men from afar, they were guided by the northern star to see King Jesus where he lay in a manger filled with the hay.
Everybody sing Jesus, everybody sing Jesus, oh yeah, oh, what a wonderful, yeah, Lord, yeah, yeah, oh, so holy, holy Mickey Mouse, yeah, yeah, new life, new love, yeah, yeah, listen, they're singing glory, he was heralded by the angel, born in the lonely manger. The Virgin Mary was his mother. Joseph was his earthly father. Come on, Lachlan, help me.
3 wise men from afar, they were guided by the northern star to see King Jesus where he lay in a manger filled with the hay.
Everybody say, everybody sing Jesus, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, what a wonderful child. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, so holy. New life, new love. Won't you listen to they're singing glory, glory to the newborn King. Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody. God bless you. Thank you.